Ken Carson, we don't need any more chaos, bro. Ken Carson fans when he drops the same song for the 54th time. When Ken Carson wasn't abusing the ha. After the release of More Chaos, it seemed like fans finally had enough of the distorted grunge sound that Ken has been doing for the past 2 years. And with him now seemingly taking a big risk by experimenting with his next project, Ken is at a pretty difficult spot in his career right now, with his fan base being pretty divided. One side who enjoys the chaotic rage music, whilst the other want Ken to try something new. So let's get into it. On the 13th of October in 2023, Ken dropped his third studio album, A Great Chaos, and the way this album took off was absolutely insane. Like, I don't think anyone expected this at all. To put it in perspective, Ken's previous project, X, dropped a year prior in the summer of 2022, which was really hated on by fans, and performed quite poorly, barely selling like 10k in its first week, and debuting at the 115th position on the Billboard 200. It was probably the lowest point of Ken's career, especially as around that time, Lone dropped No Stylist, which started making fans consider him as the better Opium artist. And also Yeet started taking off too, so Ken was like being left behind. The project still had some cool songs like MDMA, Freestyle 2, which took off on TikTok, but yeah, by the public, this project was not liked. But of course, it all ended up working out after he dropped AGC, debuting at the number 11 spot and selling 49k first week, which is like a 600% increase from X. And not only that, but he did it with the most bizarre sound, the super distorted rage style, which was really like a complete 180 on what he had been releasing prior. Like, it was still rage, but it was more EDM inspired, whereas AGC was the darker grunge sounding album. And after this, it would only continue getting better for Ken. He was doing his worldwide tour, headlining festivals, and really reclaiming his top spot in the underground space. Then, just 9 months after AGC, he would drop the Deluxe, 6 more songs, which again were received very well by fans, with the Deluxe itself selling 27k in its first week, which means all the original album songs, which really shows us that the album was still streaming extremely well almost a year after release. The Deluxe would also land him his first Billboard entry with Overseas, which actually was released as a single prior to the Deluxe, but still. So with Ken having such immense success from this album, you would expect the next one to have insane anticipation, right? And I mean, it did. It would be announced sometime in the early months of 2025 that on his birthday, the 11th of April, Ken would be dropping his next album, More Chaos, kind of like the sequel to A Great Chaos. But this is where things would start getting interesting. So really, the album was basically the same to A Great Chaos. He had the chaotic rage tracks whilst also having some more experimental tracks such as Down to Earth, Psycho, and Inferno. Now, with AGC doing so well, and this project being the follow-up to that, you'd expect it to be perceived very well. And with Ken growing a lot from 2023, you'd also expect the performance of the project to have a significant increase. Well, surprisingly, this wasn't the case. Way less interesting than AGC. This was a huge step down from AGC. It feels like he hasn't evolved at all since that album. Really effing boring and repetitive, and I say that as a Ken Carson fan. How can you call an album More Chaos when it's the same beats repackaged over and over and the same ad-libs and flows? Ken sounds asleep on most of these songs. His worst project yet. So the issues with this project, well, it just simply didn't reach the same heights AGC did. It felt like a cheap copy. Personally to me, it felt like the distortion was way too harsh and almost forced on this project. Like, not to sound like an old head, but on AGC, you had the perfect mix of trap beats, rage songs, and the hyperpop EDM kind of style songs. And not only that, the hooks and flows were catchy. Whereas on More Chaos, it felt like that same effort wasn't put in. For example, Exposed is basically a 4-minute song of Ken just mumbling. To me, it seemed like Ken thought as long as there's crazy, distorted beats and 5 songs with beat switches, people will like it. Which, you know, is fire. The music gets you pumped up and it sounds good. But yeah, just overall, it wasn't on the same level as A Great Chaos. But there definitely was a lot of positives to the album too. Don't think I'm being all negative. Personally, to me, I liked the more upbeat songs. like Thanks, Down to Earth, Psycho, and so on. That Rage stuff, I wouldn't say it gets boring because I still love AGC, like those songs on there are actually addicting and interesting, whereas the Rage stuff on More Chaos doesn't match songs like Me and My Cup, Fighting My Demons, and Jennifer's Body. It's just not on the same level. And then the album's performance, now this is personally where I get kind of confused because the album sold 59,500 units in its first week. However, 11,000 of those were pure sales from things such as bundles and vinyls, meaning More Chaos only sold 48,500 units in its first week, basically the same as AGC, which just didn't make sense to me. From the October of 2023, Ken has basically grown like 4 times in size. Like, I know this isn't the best metrics to compare, but monthly listeners wise, before AGC, he had like 5 million after Freestyle 2 blew up and Yale. Then after the album dropped, he went all the way up to like 10 million. So I don't know how both those projects sold the same numbers, especially with More Chaos also having a Carti feature. Maybe there just wasn't good promo, there wasn't any popular snippets, or simply people just didn't like the album as much. But look, Ken got a #1 album, so it was still a big win for him. But the thing is, after More Chaos, a lot of fans started to get bored of the Rage sound. Ken Carson, we don't need any more chaos bruh. Ken Carson fans when he drops the same song for the 54th time. Now people were putting out tweets like this because pretty much soon after the album dropped, like a month later, Ken started putting out new snippets, which no offense to the guy, they were the same distorted Rage sound, and it was just kind of like, damn bro, we've got like 30 or 40 songs of this stuff bro, can we just get something different?
Just saying, the comments on this were bad. Let's just take a look, right? This guy said right here, MF or motherfucker really doesn't want to switch up and experiment. Dude refuses to rap about anything but goth and hoes. Yeah, he needs to pull a 2093, referencing Yeats and an experimental album. Boy Slow Down. Sounds like the other 1,000 songs or the 1,000 other songs. My goat peaked in AGC and that's okay? Oh my god. Let's switch up the sound, Kenneth. The goat. Who listens to this trash? Am I tripping or has he not used that second flow before? Damn. I wasn't looking, guys, by the way. I was not looking for negative comments on this. That's what was there. It was literally just that. That is like, yeah, mind-boggling.
And not only that, but he was still going with that same gore aesthetic as he updated his Instagram profile picture to this vampire eating a heart. I know it's from some cool ass movie, don't cook me okay, I haven't watched it. And Isaiah TG also used that for one of his songs which Ken Carson got cooked for. But anyways, the point is he did used to have this picture before, a similar one but without the heart as his profile picture, but with him now putting it as this one and previewing more Rage songs, it seemed like Ken was not planning on switching anything up and was going to give us more ha 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 music. So yeah, it just seemed like fans were sick of that sound and wanted something different. Well, luckily for us, it seemed like he listened. After all the backlash, Ken would get on Twitter and announce, presumably the name for his next album, The Experiment. And if it isn't the name of the album, it's a hint for what's to come. MF has told him to experiment, now he's dropping an album called The Experiment. The Experiment, just for it to be More Chaos 3. Now you see, this is where it gets kind of interesting, because what can Ken Carson really do to experiment? Like, yeah, sure, he can say he's going to experiment, but what, instead of an album of Rage songs, he's just going to make Rage songs but on EDM style beats like he did on X and Project X? Because I feel like that really is just the same thing but the beats are different. I don't know, let me know what you guys think in the comments of what I just said. Like, sure, he can do songs such as Nightcore 1, Nightcore 2, Down to Earth, Kryptonite, and so on. Songs like Mewtwo, which I guess would be cool, but I feel like he actually needs to switch it up like completely. But then I don't know, why would he do that when this is his sound that he's known for and blew up off of? Like, my point is, you know how Carti, he had Die Lit, then Whole Lotta Red, and Music. There's a huge jump in sound with each album. Die Lit is a spacey Pierre-born beats, Whole Lotta Red is a synthy, Rage beats, and Music is like a mix of everything but really trying to bring back those Atlanta trap beats. Now, funnily enough, some fans argued that, oh, we shouldn't be complaining that More Chaos is boring and repetitive because the purpose of the album was literally just to be an extension of a great chaos. They said like, oh, but it's literally called More Chaos, bro. Like, sure, but that doesn't mean it was objectively a good album. It was cool, but very repetitive, and it got stale quickly. Like, Kirko made this post saying, is Ken Carson's More Chaos still in rotation 1 month after release? Where the replies weren't the best. I said myself, it's okay, wish he tried something new. The album aged like milk, and of course, milk doesn't have a long shelf life. Ken really disappointed me with this one. It was supposed to take him out of the underground, but it's just gonna keep him there longer, which is a whole other discussion in itself. Like, will Ken ever get out of the underground into the mainstream with this sound and style? Like, sure, he's not underground anymore, but he's not exactly as big as, for example, Yee or Don Toliver. And if he doesn't switch up his sound, will he ever be able to make it into the mainstream? I don't know, man. I feel like Ken has to take a big risk with this next project, otherwise he's cooked. Here's actually an interesting post a fan made on Reddit about that. The experiment will make or break his career. With critics calling More Chaos repetitive and redundant, Ken is really facing pressure to switch up his sound. Plus, another Chaos album would be incredibly boring because I feel like he peaked that sound and we don't need more. And if he makes a successful sound switch, I think the respect for Ken would go up crazily. Like, if it flops, people will start forgetting about Ken. Do you all agree? Yeah, I mean, he has to switch it up, but actually then it's also like, but the Rage sound is his sound, so he's going to switch up on what people know him for. It's a sticky situation. I guess on his next album he can still have some Rage tracks, just not as many. I'm not too sure. And actually, he recently previewed this snippet titled Catastrophe, which has had a lot of positive feedback. Beat reminds me of X, voice reminds me of Chaos. Next album maybe X/Chaos fused. So yeah, for this next album, it seems like Ken is heading back to the hyperpop EDM beats, Project X and X kind of sound, but more polished. I mean, I'm happy we're getting the older Ken back because this is a style of music that actually got me into Ken in the first place, so it'd be cool for him to head back to this style. Like, honestly, we don't know exactly what he's going to do, and I am slightly concerned because Ken isn't the most versatile artist. Like, you know, for example, Yee and Lone, they're really good at experimenting and switching up the sound on each of the albums and like creating different eras. Like, each project is basically this new world, which is really cool and exciting to see. Like Yee, for example, we go all the way back to Two Alive, which is like the geeker kind of stuff, then to Afterlife, where the whole album was like these experimental kind of Benny X beats, and then 2093, you know, the cyberpunk aesthetic, the cyberpunk music, and then with Lone you had No Stylist, where it was rapping on these more kind of these like rage beats with the cool samples. Then If Looks Could Kill was more the laid back horror aesthetic. It's kind of hard to explain this straight from the top of my head. And then now we have Love Lasts Forever, where he's trying to sound like Future, and you get the point. Whereas Ken, I don't know, man. Gore and distortion is this kind of thing he's been on for the past 2 or 3 years. Look, we'll wait and see. I don't want to be overly negative because I of course like Ken and I like his music, but I just hope he can actually bring something new to the table. So I guess let's talk about what Ken can do on the experiment to bring us an exciting album. Because it's clear he knows he needs to switch it up. He saw the backlash from Twitter, that's why he put out the experiment tweet, so I'm sure he's going to do something new. So first of all, features. Before we even get into his aesthetic or sound, the actual music, features, because More Chaos was solo, and previously on all of Ken's albums he's only had Destroy Lonely and Homicide Gang. So features, I think he could definitely get like a Young Thug feature. We know they have a song together, the Yuck song that just leaked recently. It's supposed to be on Oi Scutty, I don't know how to say that, and they performed it live at Rolling Loud at Lyrical Lemonade. So it's clear they're like friends and they make music together. So I think Ken should definitely have Young Thug on his next project. Maybe even Future. If Yee can get a Future feature, Ken Carson definitely can, especially Carti. He signed to Carti and he's from Atlanta. Lil Tecca, Ken has been on Lil Tecca's projects twice now, so I think that would be cool. I'm not sure if I really want Lil Tecca. I think they can make a cool song, but I'm not like dying for a Ken Tecca song. And then Carti, I guess. I wish Ken and Carti recorded a new song though, unlike what they did on More Chaos, where they just got a 2021 song and Carti recorded a new verse, which was really lame, by the way. Yeah, I'm not going to get into it, but I wish they actually recorded a brand new song, not just Carti hopping on an old Ken Carson song, which is just really weird. Anyways, let's get past that. So we've got Future, Thug, Tecca, Carti. I guess we could have Lone on there, that would be cool. And I think that would do it. I'm not really sure who else you could have as features. Maybe Uzi. He's already had the Uzi feature before though. Yeah, I don't know. I've been sat for like 2 minutes thinking. I was thinking like Kodak Black, because I know Yeet had him on his project. I was gonna say Don Toliver, but first of all, Don Toliver features kind of cringe, and also they're beefing now, so it's not gonna happen. But yeah, I just think that would be cool to spice it up a bit, because you know Ken, he doesn't have many features on his projects. As I said, he's only had Uzi, Destroy Lonely, and Homicide Gang, so it would be cool to see. And then of course, we kind of need him to change up the aesthetic. I guess the gore thing is his kind of thing, like that's what he's known for. But like, do we need a third project, another Ken Carson era with the same aesthetic? Now the thing is, I was actually watching someone else's video, and they said that Ken follows like this pattern in his career where he does 2 albums or like 2 projects and then switches it up. So for example, Teen X era, he had Teen X EP and then Teen X Relapsed, which then after that he changed it up and dropped Project X and then X. And then after that, he did a Great Chaos and More Chaos, with it being like a pattern of 2 albums. So he just drops 2 albums, then does a whole new era, 2 albums, a whole new era. So I'm presuming we'll have like a whole different Ken Carson with this new experiment project. And then sound wise, well, I'm presuming he's going to be rapping on these more bouncy EDM beats, kind of like old Ken Carson from Project X, like these kind of bouncy Starboy EDM beats, which as I said earlier, okay, cool, but we already have that. And look, again, I don't want to be negative, and I've said this before, but it's just going to be the same thing. But instead of these dog grunge beats, the beats are just going to be like higher pitched. Like Ken's going to still be doing the same flows and the same things, but the beat sounds slightly different. Like I think Ken needs to completely change it. Like he's been rapping on Starboy and Out of Town beats for 5 years. But yeah, again, nobody knows. We have no idea. This is really only the start. We won't know what Ken's actually going to do for like a whole another year, probably not until he finishes his tour, because he's just dropped. So by the time he comes around to rolling out the album and dropping it, it could be over a year, because he could be dropping it like late 2026. So it could be a year and a half before we get any new kind of teaser for the album. And before we move on to the final segment of this video, I actually found this really good Reddit post, which again explains very well the issues Ken's having. So they say, hot take, but this album is the last time Ken is going to get away with this sound. He either needs to evolve like Carti did, or take a min before he drops a project again, or else he's gonna burn out genuinely. Now I actually said this to some of my friends. I was saying like, yo, he needs to take a break, because this is what big artists do, and now I think Ken needs to do, like some of these other bigger artists, where they take a year or 2 or even sometimes 3 years off so they can go away, develop a new sound, and come back with something fresh. Now actually, if you watch my video I made on Lil Tecca, he did this. After he blew up from We Love You Tecca, the original first album, he dropped 2 albums after that and they did really badly. People were hating, calling him a one-hit wonder. So he took like a year or 2 break I think, and then came back with Tech. And then now everyone loves him because he came back with a new fresh sound, a new aesthetic, and everyone loves Lil Tecca. I mean, we've seen with Travis Scott, he takes like a year or 2 break between each album. I mean, of course, Carti, between Die Lit and Hollow Red, there was a 2-year wait. So I think Ken needs to take a break and actually take a year away and come back with something new. Let me carry on reading this Reddit post. Out of 22 song album, 15 of them are the same song, same lyrics and topics. I got money, I was poor, I don't care about this B, I sell and do drug. I get that's what rap is about for most part, but bruh, I don't want to hear this album. I don't want to hear it 22 times in a row. Now, this is what I said about, yeah, sure, Ken can experiment and do, well, it's not really experimenting, but he can do the EDM, hyperpop, melodic songs, but it's just the same thing, but the beats sound different. Then he says, AGC had more diversity of sound and he was more flexible and had different moods. This album, I can point out one standout amazing song, except the ones that already leaked. If he drops one more project like this, he just might start declining, and that Carti feat was mid AF2. So yeah, I think Ken just actually needs to take a break. Like, I think that is the conclusion I've came to from this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments though, because I doubt anyone is gonna say no, Ken needs to drop another album like this, because he doesn't. Like, we've got 50 of these songs. I'm good, bro. And I don't think Ken can evolve in just a year's time. Like, he is going on tour now, which is gonna take up a lot of his time and energy, so I doubt he's gonna really evolve or come up with something new while he's on tour. So I think a year break would be a good choice for him. So some fans in the comments said, most certainly it's a good album that really taps the sound dry, makes me appreciate just how insanely different music is to Hollow Red. So yeah, as we said, bigger artists like Carti, Travis, I'm not even sure who else, but you know, Uzi, they take big breaks between each album, not even like big breaks, but like just 1 or 2 year breaks to come up with something new. Deadass, this sound was already played the F out before the album even dropped. Now this is personally how I felt before the album dropped, because the thing is, music dropped a month before, and of course we just had, well, we had AGC, and then we had the Deluxe, and then we had also had like some singles like Delusional, President. So in total we had like 30 of these rage songs. So by the time More Chaos dropped, I was like, I'm gonna be honest bro, I'm good. And again, as I said earlier, this is what I really like Destroy Lonely and Yeet, because I know a lot of people didn't like Love Lasts Forever, or they didn't like 2093, but at least they're doing something new. But yeah, I'm gonna quit yapping now. I've talked about Ken enough, and yeah, let's just end off this video. And I mean, now this dude's about to go on a crazy arena tour around North America, then presumably Europe later this year or next year, with Netspend, Pretty Fun, Che, and Homicide Gang as openers, which should be pretty nuts. Oh, and also Ken, he needs to stay off Twitter. I don't know why he's dissing Yee and Don Toliver, crashing out on his fans about the Addison Rae fake tweets, all the internet antics, but it's making him seem really lame. Honestly, the entire Opium crew need to bring back the whole mysterious stuff. Carti posting 50 Instagram stories a day is getting kind of boring. Anyways, so let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is Ken going to save his career with The Experiment? Are you excited to see what Ken's bringing to the table? I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, subscribe, comment, have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.